Hi, as you can tell by the title of the video, I'm here to give you an answer. And so, not to make you wait to the end, I'm going to just tell you why. It's because my life doesn't matter. It's because I have the privilege of being educated. It's because I have the duty to be in service of others. And because I guess I'm delusional that people actually care about my worldview. So with that out of the way, if you actually care about me and hearing what's brought me to this point, stick around. Also, pardon any background noise. I'm currently in India, my aunt's apartment, so. About 6 years ago, my friend made this joking but astute observation that the more vain someone is, the more they post their face on socials. You know, I've noticed that to be true, but I especially noticed that engagement is a lot higher on posts that are about yourself or specifically things that you're doing or achieving. In my case, with the Nor'easters, I had started to gain a lot of new followers who I did not know personally. I also have made a bunch of friends who I still value immensely. But gradually, my platform became a lot larger than just my immediate sphere of life. And so around 2016-ish, I went from a private Instagram to a public Instagram as my vocal percussioning started to garner some attention, especially post Rise Up, that video in fall of 2016. And so on Instagram I posted myself because Twitter and Facebook was where I shared my social and political concerns. Instagram was where I shared snapshots from my life. Twitter was always a huge source of news. I mean, if anyone remembers Twitter before the Musk days, especially during Trump's live tweeting days, seeing his thoughts live was a huge part of just keeping tabs on what direction the country was going. Also, commentary was pretty accessible. It was easy to share things from my own life, my own mind, while also retweeting updates and news. And then Facebook is where the adults were, so all my put together thoughts were shared there. I distinctly remember sharing an article about the rise of American fascism back in mid-2016. I shared some anti-Nazi artwork after the Charlottesville tragedy in 2017. And then I had a write-up about South Asian Desi privilege in the United States, and I posted that in 2018. And I think I've always been civically minded because, I mean, growing up in Chelmsford, I was always trying to fit in because I felt like an outcast. I was bullied for a bunch of different reasons, but that made me want to speak up for other outcasts no matter where I was personally or socially. And I think, watching sci-fi made me interested in earthly history and religion. So I studied and I read about patterns and events that, influenced global and national politics. One thing that really interested me was the Strauss-Howe theory of generational history. I actually wrote a letter to the author of the blog that I had read that on, and we had exchanged a letter or two about, do we think that we've entered the fourth turning, the crisis? Kind of come to the conclusion that we are essentially entering it, and that was back in 2012. But anyway, sci-fi, it made me interested in engineering, so I ended up reading a lot about sci-fi weapons and real weapons. And finally, I always just wanted to be a Jedi. The Force felt real, like the morality and the selflessness of the Jedi that spoke to me, and their commitment to public service, I think that really was inspiring. Especially after the Edward Snowden leaks about the NSA, I had actively sought to learn about the government, its surveillance methods and its targets, about domestic infrastructure, about government authority. But during all of this, I had hope for our country, especially as I was graduating high school. Trump had not announced his presidency by that point. In 2015 felt like the highest that our American social barometer has ever been. I mean, we had just legalized gay marriage, there was the passage of weed legalizations happening in certain states, progressive social issues were becoming accepted. But then I remember when Trump announced his campaign. I remember because, and I hate to say it, I remember thinking immediately that he was going to win. I distinctly remember messaging one of my friends on GroupMe and telling him, if he wins, we gotta leave the country, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna, and they didn't believe me. But he said too many things that just resonated with America's buried racist history, and he carried all the elements of a demagogue. And I hate to say it, but I think I was right, because 5 years later, his administration, it politicized the pandemic, It led to conflicting attitudes and approaches towards it. We had mass law enforcement responses to all of the racial justice protests in the summer of 2020. Hell, does anyone remember when Kellyanne Conway said there are alternative facts? I mean, it was crazy, those 4 or 5 years. Through that time, and especially in 2020, Twitter was a huge outlet for news sharing. And on Facebook, I shared my own essays and my own speeches that I had given. But 2020, like, COVID was not the only thing to happen in 2020. I don't know if anyone else was paying attention, but like, every day it felt like there was some huge news that dropped, and it was just swept up in the news the next day. There was just so much happening. I was glued to Twitter, paying attention, and I was staying up to date in the moment because it was like a live feed of societal decay. I think when Biden was elected, a lot of people just kind of had a sigh of relief and then stopped paying attention, but like, I knew Biden was not going to save us from what Trump had started. At best, he was gonna buy us a few years of time to settle and to organize, but it has not bought us 4 full years. I mean, even by 2022, it became pretty clear that the Democrats were not governing us very well. Republicans continued to erode state and local government. So around that time is when I began to write privately. I have not released any of these free writings yet, but someday I'll make them public. But early 2023 was kind of the tipping point for me, because I started seeing this law enforcement response to protests in Florida. I saw the expulsion of those 2 black lawmakers from the Tennessee State House. And, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, none of them were covering it. It was all on social media and the internet that I was seeing this. TikTok bannings. Like, TikTok was trying to be banned. Remember that? Like, that's where we were getting information. And it really seems like fascism was arriving, even if Trump wasn't in power. So that's when I posted my first slew of videos, because it was 7 years after I had posted that video on Facebook about how fascism had come up in democratic Germany, and now we're seeing fascist rhetoric lead to violent action in our own country. So I decided to put my own image aside, and I decided to use this large network of varied people from around the world that I had gotten to know, or who got to know me through Nor'easters, and I would post it on Instagram. Because, most people my age and younger were no longer using Facebook, and then especially after Musk bought Twitter and destroyed it, very few people were using that. So the first videos I posted, it was about the fall of the petrodollar, social media throttling, book bannings, the responses from those Tennessee state lawmakers. A month later, I posted another set of videos, but this time on like human interaction, different perspectives on it, the Republican endgame, red state culture, legislature, and digital cyber security. I thought that was enough until the Gaza genocide began, and that really broke me. That's kind of the reason why I haven't posted a video in the last 5 months. I mean, everything I feared could happen was now actively occurring, and no one else was seeing it unfold. And I speak in the past tense, but it's still happening. I mean, everything I had been paying attention to suddenly collided, and our democratic leaders were endorsing this. We were living on borrowed time thanks to Biden, but now it's come back to bite us. So in October, I posted a set of videos, but these were tailored to my centrist and my liberal friends, because I wanted them to become aware of the grander scheme of oil, energy, control, politics, and how religion was being used in the name of colonization. But it wasn't enough, because no one else has spoken up and is posting like I am. Here I was, I was sharing news about our quickly devolving democracy and our global stature. No one else caught on. On Twitter, I'm seeing the genocide daily. I'm having panic attacks because I'm seeing more death and mutilation than I've ever expected. Meanwhile, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, none of them said a word. Most of my friends have not said a word. And I didn't want to share atrocity videos on my Instagram story because I have working age friends. I don't want to send them into a panic attack just based on the sheer amount of violence that I was seeing. So I just linked resources and places they could find information, plus articles that could help them stay updated. But nothing happened in response. Only a handful of people have posted about it. Some continue like nothing's happening. And people who I trust deeply, they click away from my story if they see this I'm posting about the genocide. So here I am, I'm watching people post pizza slices and ski trips and concerts and themselves and their pets and the freaking Super Bowl. And at the same time that I saw a picture about the Kansas City Chiefs, I saw someone today hanging by their arm, their lower body ripped off and all their inner organs hanging out like strewn paper tissues. I've seen a woman with no face crying, a 6-year-old comforting their 3-year-old child because everyone else in their family's been killed. I mean, I knew about the atrocities in the Middle East during the 2000s, like when the Abu Ghraib scandal, that all happened, the torture scandal, and I personally felt that Islamophobia growing up because even though we weren't Muslim, like, I'm brown, like, all these feelings of being an outcast have come back up. And the worst part is that, especially from 2020 to now, is I've realized that the apparatus of our American military is also functioning in our police departments. And it's scary because, to me, that tells me that everything happening in Palestine is going to happen in the United States. That's why I started posting these woke videos, because I'm seeing a present day that matches my past fears of the future. And the predictions I had have basically come true. And that's terrifying. Now I'm trying to frantically tell people to see how my now current fears of the future may come true. And so I'm posting these videos because my life doesn't matter in comparison to this large-scale imperial system that's going to eventually take all of our lives. And I'm posting because I want to live until I'm 80. I want to tell my grandkids that we beat climate change, that, you know, we saved the oppressed, that we stopped evil and ignorance from decimating reason and facts. But, you know, realistically, I'm probably not going to make it that far, because history has shown that the state does not like when people understand and point out its flaws. And history has also shown that people who understand and support humanity vocally, they make the biggest impact. History is kinder to those people than the society that they live in. I mean, I think of Nelson Mandela, I think of Martin Luther King Jr. That's why I post, because I've been given this immense privilege of being educated, and I'm comfortably situated at the heart of the empire. Like, realizing this means you have to come to terms that personal ambitions don't matter. I don't want to go get my PhD anymore. I don't want to go make music. I don't want to go sit in a coffee shop all day. If I'm not working in service of others, I don't feel like a Jedi. And like, I'm not posting videos because I have some delusion that I'm like a chosen one, like Anakin Skywalker. That's not what it is. I'm posting videos because if I have a delusion, it's that people actually care about me. People actually care about my worldview, and not just my physical appearance or my talents. But who knows? I don't know if that's true. Whatever the case, either way, I mean, I know I must act in the direction of justice without any expectation or attachment to bearing the fruit of that outcome. And hopefully there'll be justice in our lifetimes. But I can only hope.